Good afternoon, everyone. I see that we have many people joining today. I'm going to give it just a few more minutes as people are coming onto the line, so just hold tight and we'll get started shortly. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us for today's webinar on how to write a great conference proposal. We are so glad you're here and took the time to be with us today and hope that you learn a lot. I'm Sarah Fletcher, Vice President and Chief Learning Officer for PAEA, and I'm joined today by Sarah Michelle, who I'll introduce in a moment, from our partners at Velvet Chainsaw Consulting. I want to start just with a few simple instructions. Hopefully everyone can locate the icon that says chat on your webinar instructions. If you can locate chat, go ahead and do that now. And we ask that you just type in a brief message, hi, and that you select, keep it on select everyone, present to everyone, so that everyone can see your questions in that chat box. We're going to use the chat box instead of the question box for today. So if you can just go ahead and do that now, that'd be helpful, just so we can get a sense of everyone's ability to see each other's messages. Everyone should be on mute at this point. We're going to use that chat box today for questions back and forth because we are already at 40 participants, which is great, and we anticipate at least about 25 more. Okay. To get us started, I just want to give you a sense of our theme for this year for the conference and really give you some context and rationale for some of the changes that you probably already have noticed, especially being on this webinar, being one of those for this year's forum. We are excited about the 2018 forum in Anaheim and hope to see all of you there. Encourage your friends and colleagues to be there as well, as we know it's a great place for our members to get together and network and learn from each other. Just to give you a sense of some of the exciting things, PAEA really is trying to make sure that we are constantly a learning organization. It's part of our core values. So we're constantly pushing the envelope, pursuing new and better ways to engage our members and increase the competency of our educator community. This year, and you probably saw this in the past couple of years, but we keep pushing this idea for our forum to be very learner-centered. So everything we do is done with a great deal of intentionality, from the content that's selected to the way we've organized the sessions. And all of this is done in the spirit of us creating a great learning experience for our attendees. So we're really having that attendee focus in mind through and through. And hopefully you can see that. This includes our new tracks. Here they are displayed, our 7 tracks, which are part of our call for proposal this year, as you all know. And really, this is a way to help organize and curate our content so that when our attendees are on site and making their decisions about what sessions to go to, they hopefully can find those pretty easy and understand what would go kind of together if they're building a schedule. So we want to thank our partners at Velvet Chainsaw, who really are leading experts in this design of conference like ours. And we've learned the importance also in the same vein of leaving some white space for some emerging issues. So in addition to these tracks, and even within them, we will have spaces for things that start to emerge as we move from now to October. If you'll recall, last year, if you were at our forum, we did some work around OTP, the optimal team practice, for that very reason. So we might have some emerging issues that come forward over the next couple of months. So that space will be there as well. You also probably have noticed a couple of differences as you submitted or you're going to submit proposals if you've already created an account and looked into it. We have tried to streamline the call for proposals process, but a couple of other enhancements I want to draw your attention to includes the format of our education sessions. So we took a critical look at the format and made the decision to retire the spotlight presentations. if you recall those. They were 50-minute lecture-based sessions, and we know that's not the optimal way people really learn these days. So we're encouraging faculty to submit what you would have submitted to a spotlight, more of a focused discussion. And again, the idea there is just more engagement, more active learning for folks, and keep those conversations going. We've also transitioned our workshops into makerspace workshops, and really here the idea is keeping the emphasis on creation and problem solving. So all the workshop education sessions will be focused on really that idea of people coming together, solving problems, generating ideas, networking, and gaining some valuable knowledge and resources that they can take back to their programs. And really it's more of a mindset than it is about having any kind of specialized tools. The idea of just creation. We're also just fostering the growth and keeping in mind that we're focused continually on that learner-centered data programming. We know everything from the proposals that you all are submitting and that we're so excited about, to the emerging issues, to the organization and content are all focused on really that creating that great experience for our attendees. With that in mind, I'm going to wrap up here in just a second, but please don't forget that the call for proposals does close on March 30th. And that's at 11:59 Eastern date time. So just keep that in mind so that we can make sure to get all the wonderful proposals. And with that, I'm going to briefly introduce our presenter, Sarah Michelle. So you should see her screen here in just a moment. I'm going to pause just 1 second until she gets done. Sarah, hopefully you can share your screen at this point.
Yeah, I don't have the invite yet.
It's taking a minute. Okay, let me make sure to go see if you have it now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just briefly to introduce Sarah, she has been a strategic partner of PAEA's now for over 3 years. She keynoted for the forum in 2016 and some last year in 2017. She was our conference content weaver, so you probably recall her being on the stage quite often and really helping us to bring together all the different big conversations in the forum. She's nationally recognized professional speaker and facilitator on networking and the creator of Networking Process. As a certified speaking professional, she's keynoted and facilitated for audiences and organizations around the world on how to be a more effective connector. She's also the Vice President of Professional Connexity for Velvet Chainsaw Consulting, helping organizations deliver on their networking promise at face-to-face events. And she's been working in the meeting industry for well over 15 years to help create one-of-a-kind meetings that matter. Her vast knowledge of next-generation learning and facilitation skills help deliver dynamic sessions that guarantee more participation, opportunities for networking, and peer-to-peer learning. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. This is the Sarah and Sarah show today. So welcome, everybody. It's awesome to spend more time with PAEA. I have grown to really love you guys, having been hanging out with you for 3 years now. And I'm excited to help you, give you some insight and ideas for creating winning session proposals. I had the privilege to work with Sarah and her team on kind of redesigning the call for proposal process, really trying to elevate that and be prepared for 21st century learners and really trying to elevate our constantly looking. I think PAEA is very invested in constantly improving your education, learning, and networking experience at Forum, and we're working really hard to just continually reinvent and innovate. And I think if you caught that opening slide Sarah had up, that is the theme for this year. The future is now, and we really thought hard about that in really trying to create a conference where we're going to be showing a lot of, really sharing a lot of thought leadership and PA education, and doing some innovative sessions, bringing you some really great thought leaders for the main stage. And we just hope that this becomes a conference, this year in Anaheim, that you really come out of there with a little bit with your mind blown on and getting some really great ideas and connections to really help you take your program to the next level. So in that mind, I want to have you tell us, and where in the chat box, please, where you are. Now, I can't see it, and when I'm in full presenter mode, I can't see your responses, but Heather on the PAEA team is monitoring that chat box, and she's going to tell us where you are. I just want to get a feel. We've got, I think, something like 50 people on the line. But just real quick in your chat box, where are you calling in from? I just want to get an idea. If you want to tell us what's your weather like where you are right now? I'm in beautiful sunny Colorado, where it's in the 60s. But Heather, tell us a little bit who's jumping on, saying hi.
We have someone from Philadelphia, North Carolina, Boston, Wisconsin. Laura Stone Street said that they have 2 feet of snow.
Oh my God.
Cold in New Jersey and Massachusetts. We have someone from Laverne, California, Alliance, Ohio, Oregon, Arkansas, University of Florida, Gainesville, Florida. Nashville.
Yay! Great. Well, thanks everybody for being on. And Heather is going to be monitoring that box with, as you can imagine, with 55 people on a line. Taking questions is kind of not really going to work. So what I've asked Heather to do is interrupt me when a question comes up that has to do with what I just said or something I just covered. You want to do that, it's completely okay. I want this to try to be as interactive as we can be with the restrictions that we have. So Heather's going to interrupt me at any time that comes up. If it's a question that the staff can just answer real quickly for you, we have 2 other staff on the line, so they might just write right back to you if it's a real simple question. But if it has to do with my content, Heather will go ahead and interrupt me and ask the question so we can all benefit from that learning. Okay? So with that, I just want to thank you. Thank you for, first of all, taking the time for this webinar and for your interest in wanting to submit a proposal that would be winning and accepted. PAEA wouldn't exist without its members, and Forum wouldn't be what it is without our members taking the time to really give back to the community. This is a give back. This is a lot of time and energy that you will take not only in crafting the proposal, but then if you're accepted in developing your program and then traveling to Anaheim to show up and deliver it. And we want to honor that. We want you to know that this doesn't work without you. So thank you for taking the time to do that. Also, if there's anything that you learn, you want to social share it, go for it. You have my permission. That's my Twitter handle. If you guys are into Twitter, or if anybody has a Twitter Twitter feed they want to populate, go ahead and do that. This is a safe place. I want to just declare you can ponder, disagree, and question. Some of the things we're going to talk about today are definitely different than what we have asked for in the past. So this is your time to question and push back and ask for clarification. And because that's why we're doing this, we want you to be successful. One thing I want to just share with you, this is Seth Godin. If you do not know about Seth Godin, you should Google him. He's a prolific writer. I think he's got 12 or 13 books out already. He's kind of an entrepreneur, business author, well-respected. I mean, you might be wondering what this has to do with higher education, but actually, I think when it comes to how we should be curating content, in other words, how we should be looking at requests for proposals for sessions and the way we design conferences today, I think this quote from Seth is very appropriate when we determine the content value of a session. And he says, people will pay for content if it is so, hang on one second, I can't see my slide. Okay, hang on. If it is so unique that they can't get it anywhere else, so fast they benefit from getting it before anyone else, or so related to their community that paying for it brings them closer to other people. And I have asked the PAEA staff, education staff, and certainly Amanda, who's leading the task force, who'll be your colleagues reviewing submissions, to kind of use this as a filter as we look at proposals. Because, if we can get content that's so unique that you can't get it anywhere else. There's not another conference out there that's going to provide this. If it's fast, meaning that it's so current, especially when we're looking at the future is now, and pushing towards, we're really getting programs, sharing information that's innovative, that's out there, that's fresh, that's new. I mean, one of the questions we're asking is, have you presented this content somewhere else? We really want to get content that's fast and new and fresh, and getting there. In other words, that getting in this session is so related to the PAEA community that paying for it, showing up and being in Anaheim is going to actually get me closer to other PA educators and my tribe. That therefore, as I review the sessions and I see, my gosh, this is so fresh and new, and it's going to be so innovative, and it's going to make me help me improve my network and my community, I have to be in Anaheim. So this is a great filter for you to think about as you think about your sessions. I also want to share this. This is Jay Cross. He's had work published for years. He's been around for a long time, and this is some great work he did with andragogy and how adults learn, and he calls it the adult learner preferences. And what I'd like you to be thinking about is really, as you're looking at putting together your proposal and really being clear on who you're designing your session for, because I think this work that Jay has done on, the novice worker, in other words, the early entry PA educator that's only been doing it for 1 to 5 years, what they need in terms of education, the mature PA educator, 6 to 10 years. I mean, look at the difference and the way you should be framing and the words you should be using in your proposal versus the experienced PA educator, 11 years or more. Very different. It's about helping, coaching, mentoring, using storytelling, all of these different things. And I do want to say, we do have a lot of early, we do get a significant amount of attendees who have only been teaching for less than 5 years. That does not mean, though, that they're necessarily not experienced. As we know, many, many people go out and practice for a while as a PA and then come back to education. So they're still a mature learner, I would say. And so if you're designing a session for an early entry career person, just be looking at how can you really, we always want to be designing up. I can promise you I read thousands of conference evaluations across all industries and the work that I do for Velvet Chainsaw. I can tell you that I think I've never seen the words, this content was above my head. You will never see that on a conference evaluation. What I see thousands of times is this content was too basic. So I would rather have you be leaning towards the mature or the experienced person for your session design, unless you're doing something potentially in our advanced pre-work, the pre-workshop work that we do, the pre-con stuff that we're doing for really early entry educators. That's different. But if you're really looking at presenting at forum, I think we would all agree the more you can be gearing that towards the mature, the experienced. Let's have somebody say, wow, this really challenged me, and they want to continue a conversation or look for an opportunity to sit down with somebody more experienced to help them go through that a little bit deeper. I would love that. That would be the educational value that we want, that people will pay to come for, is when we are challenging them and getting them to scratch their head and go, wow, this was really, I've never heard this before, or this really challenged me. So the first thing I want to say in a session proposal is you've got to start with a killer session title. First impressions matter. I want you to be thinking about when you submit your title for this, really think about making it catchy, because honestly, when it's human beings that are reviewing your proposal. This is not a computer program. These are humans, your colleagues, who are going to look at this proposal, and the first thing they're going to read is your proposed session title. And if you can make that really catchy and making somebody go, like almost scratch their head and go, I want to know more about that. I want you to think about when you go to a conference, the first thing you do is you scan the session, you scan the brochure or the online app, you look at the sessions, you decide which ones you want to go to, and the first thing you're looking at is the session title. And if the session title grabs you, you might click on it and then read the description. If that title is not attracting or not impressive, you will not click on that. So that's what we want you to be thinking about, is how do I get their attention? How do I get them to want to click, right click, to read more about what this session is? So I've got a great link for you. If you want to capture this link, this is actually a link that a lot of newspaper folks, marketing people who are trying to create headlines use. It's actually something, if you look at the Velvet Chainsaw, if you look at our blog, we have a blog that we post up 4 times a week. All of our headlines that we use for our blog, they go under this test. And this is the actual website for it. It's been put out by the American Marketing Institute. It's free, and all you got to do is take your potential title, drop it into their analyzer. You just type it in or copy paste it in, and then you hit score. And the headliner analyzer will score your title and tell you if you're going to make an emotional connection with a reader with this title. And if you are not, if the score is under 50%, it's going to tell you probably what you need to do to improve that emotional connection with that headline. And then you resubmit and analyze it again, and right there in the moment, you'll get a score. And I'll tell you that if you can get a score that's better than 70%, that's a great title. Very hard to get in the 90s. If you get a score that's in the 90s, you run with that title. But be thrilled if it's better than 70%. And if you get under 50%, try tweaking it. Look at how the suggestions they give you to change it. But this is a great tool. I know a ton of marketing people who use this. We use it personally ourselves here at Velvet Chainsaw, and use that to help you get a strong title. So once you've got your title, you want to look at then your session description. And the first sentence, again, it's the same thing. People are scanning, they read your title, they read that first sentence, and they want to decide if they're going to read any further. So that first sentence we call the killer first sentence really needs to grab people right off the bat. And we call, that favorite radio station, WIIFM, means what's in it for me. Focus on them, not you. So it's not about your great program. It's got to be that killer sentence, got to be why. Why should they care? What is it about this session that should make them want to, first of all, select you? And then second of all, because again, the reviewers are reviewing your proposal and trying to decide, is this going to grab, or is this going to meet the need of our attendees? Is it going to meet the need of our member? Does it grab them? Is it going to be a session that people are going to select and go to and find a lot of benefit in? The next thing really is, I like to say, what's the benefit of attending this session? What is the learner going to get? What's going to be the outcome? And then I like to say, what's the benefit of the benefit? So if you can say, this is, if you can answer that question, boy, if they come to the session, they're going to get this. And by getting this, they get this. So they're going to learn how to attract high-performing, PA students, and then actually learn how to retain them. So that's a benefit of a benefit, how to attract, how to retain, how to improve your attrition, whatever it might be. But think of that, answer that question. What's the benefit? And then what's the benefit of the benefit? And then make a promise. What can you promise them? What's going to happen in this session? What can you almost say they're going to absolutely, I can promise you, this is going to happen, whether with the experience because of the way you're designing it to be interactive, or in the content that you're going to propose, or that it's so innovative that maybe they've never even heard it before, or it's, something that's, you're the first program to have done this, whatever. Make that promise, and then really try to identify what is the problem or challenge that you're addressing. Now, this year, as Sarah just went over, we've got tracks, very specific, what we're calling problem-centric or problem-challenge tracks, and we got it down. We spent a lot of time on this. We went to a lot of folks in your membership and said, do we have this right? Are these some of the top big challenges right now? And we got confirmation it was. So your proposal really needs to hit one of those challenges. We've already told you what keeps, these are the top 7 that are keeping people up at night. So if you can, you should be able to say it's going to hit this particular track, and this is the problem challenge that I'm addressing. You'll need to identify that in your proposal, and then tell us why it's so relevant. So why is this particular proposal going to be relevant for this challenge that we've already told you is big one for our members? And the more you can make it really relevant, and what I say, content is nothing without context. So what's the contextual outcome of this? Why is it so relevant? Why is this challenge such a big one for us right now with PA education, and how you're going to address that? So session description is huge. And we're going to be lifting, if your session gets selected, we're going to be lifting a lot of what you put in here to actually go into the program, the printed program, the mobile app, on the website to promote it, because your session is what is part of our content marketing strategy. In order to market Forum 18, we need to be able to say, this is the great content that you're going to get in Anaheim, and we need to be able to kind of, copy and paste what you give us in this description to help us market Forum, and more importantly, put butts in seats in your room so that you've got a full room. So all this great work you're going to do is going to pay off, and you being able to really make an impact on your association. I just saw a question pop up. That's interesting. Has there been questions, Heather? Heather?
Sorry, I muted. There are just a couple questions about the slides and accessing the recording after the fact, but just, I've been sending the answer to everyone, but just so everyone knows that the recording will be posted on the Call for Proposals webpage, so.
Yes, this is being recorded, yes, thank you. So interestingly, Heather, I just suddenly I can see the questions now, I think. So that's great. But you keep monitoring them, that's beautiful. So, all right, let's move on to learning outcomes or learning objectives. This year on the Call for Proposal, we're asking you to tell us the 3 what I call learner outcomes from your session. I want you to be thinking about this. What is the participant going to walk out knowing, doing, thinking, changing? What attitude, behavior, skill change are you going to impact? What can you tell us is going to happen as a result of attending your session? So think of it this way. As you craft these 3 objectives, what do you want your participants to remember? And by the way, just so you know, when I do proposals, because I still do a lot of proposals to be considered a speaker at conferences, I start with my outcomes first. Just a little, not everybody does it this way, but I find if I can come up with what are my outcomes, what are my 3 learner outcomes that I want out of this session, and I get those 3, boy, doing my session description becomes very easy. And then my title is usually this last thing that I do after I've really got succinct on what I'm drafting. Then the title kind of appears for me. So if that's how I do it. If it works for you, try it that way. But this is, what do you want your participants to remember? What 3 outcomes will they walk out knowing? And what's going to be observable and measurable? Because that's important with outcomes. You need to be able to say, they're going to discover this. They're going to discuss this. I'm definitely doing interaction. They're going to be discussing this with their peers. They're going to be learning these 7 tips or secrets. Be as measurable and observable as you can in those outcomes. And I find when I write these first, it becomes it's almost like my outline, because this is like what your contract is to your colleagues at Forum. Your colleagues are going to look at these outcomes, and this is what you're contractually saying, guys, this is what I'm going to deliver. This is what my session is going to do for you. And this is keeping everybody accountable to the session. If somebody picks your session and you deliver these and they say, gosh, it's not what I thought I was going to get, then we can say, wow, did you even read those outcomes? Because that's what the session was. And I guess you didn't read to know that that's what they were doing. But certainly they may come back to us and say, wow, these 3 outcomes were not addressed. This person didn't even do these 3. And then that will be another conversation. But this helps everybody be accountable to what's going to happen in the session. So here's an example of one that would be a great outcome. this would be a great outcome. Identify 7 ways to improve the implementation of interdisciplinary education to advance your residency program. This was for another medical education that I actually wrote this one for, but this is a great one. So identify 7 ways to improve the implementation of interdisciplinary education to advance your residency program. That's a measurable, observable outcome that would have happened in this session. And your outcome should be a sentence. I mean, your objective should be only a sentence like this. If it's too wordy, if you have way too many words, you don't have a strong objective. Go back and try to get it down to as the smallest amount of words you can use to be very clear on a measurable, observable outcome of participating in your session. And think of it that way. Participants will be able to, or participants will walk out knowing. That's a great way to think about it. So effective learner outcomes focus on the outcomes of the session. They facilitate the learning. They focus on the behavior, attitude, or skill that is going to be changed. We really hope, we want to get our form education to this level of kind of transformational. And in order to be transformational, there needs to be some kind of behavior, attitude, or skill change that's impacted by being in an educational session. So we're going to be looking for that in that, as we read these proposals. So focus on that definitely in your outcome. And what is actively going to be done by a participant? Now, we've got several different formats this year, and as Sarah said, this makerspace is what I'm really excited to see how that one plays out. And we are definitely pushing for more evidence-based education, adult learning principles. What we would love for you to be telling us, what is the participant going to be actively doing? If we're seeing sessions where they're just sitting and listening to you for, the entire 60 minutes or 75 minutes, that is, we would like to see more modeled education around, that there's going to be there's some content didactic happening, but then in order for people to actually get attitude, behavior, and skill change, people have to talk about the learning. There's got to be the brain has to engage with what they just heard, and again, to get to that context, right? So I call it the so what, now what. So you told me something, now how would this apply to my PA program? And the more you can get people to do so what, now what, and get to that contextual in your session, the more the learning is going to stick, and the more that's going to make us go, we want this session, because we want that kind of deep learning to occur. So tell us what they're going to be doing. And again, these outcomes are going to hold everybody, the participant and the speaker, accountable to the outcome of the session. And so to answer this question, and this is in the RFP, what will the participant be doing in your session? How will you engage them? So we're asking you in the proposal to tell us that. So all we're wanting to know on that is maybe, if you say I would like to have people sitting in rounds or in crescent rounds, periodically I'm going to ask them to
Hi, Sarah?
Yeah.
Sorry. I have a couple of questions. One, do we have any links for pages or access? And Sarah Fletcher, you might be able to answer this too. But do we have a link, page, or access to any examples of prior submissions for reference?
So that's a great question. We do not currently. I will see what we can do that way. That's a great question, suggestion. So let me look into that. We do not at this time.
Because we just completely rewrote it, you guys. That is a great idea, though. I think we could do a mock one, Sarah. We could put together a mock example to the new process, and then make that a PDF and put that on the page.
Yes.
That sound good, Sarah? Yeah. So thank you, whoever suggested that. We will do that because that's a great idea, because it's brand new. So we will do that. And
I have one question too. It's what is the RSP?
Oh, RFP stands for Request for Proposal. Sorry. So we have a CFP up right now, Call for Proposal, and when you respond, you're responding, or sorry, that's meeting language speak. So ignore that. You're responding to the call for proposal. But when you respond, you're responding with a proposal. So request for proposal is what RFP means. Anything else?
Nope, that's it for now.
Okay. So answering this question, how will you engage them? I will tell you that one of the things Sarah Fletcher and I have planned is once you have been notified for folks that will be selected to present at forum, we will be doing another speaker webinar on exactly how do you deliver your content that's engaging. And so that would be for people who do get selected. We are going to provide some training on, adult education, interaction best practices. We're going to be doing, showing you examples and ways to do it. So we want you to know we're asking you to do this, and we're also going to be helping you do this. We're not asking you to go figure out how to do something by yourself in a vacuum. If you are selected, we will provide training on how to do that. But we hopefully with the example that we'll do on this blank template, you'll get an idea. But we'll give you 3 different ways you could put down how you could engage in your proposal. But generally speaking, I would love it if you would think about how, what could I get the participants doing to interact with this content and make it their own, answering that so what, now what. And you could say there's going to be periodically I'm going to ask the participants to work in a small group, in a crescent table, or sitting in a circle. Maybe you're going to have them pair and share, turn to a partner, pair and share. Maybe you're going to ask them to reflect and think and just write things down and then maybe pair and share. So there's lots of different ways that you could show us that. But what we're looking for is not talking heads. We want you to have people really, these are your peer-to-peer learning going on here. These are all peers. And how can we leverage the intellectual equity that's in every single one of these rooms so we can all walk out a little bit smarter? So with that, what questions do we have? So let's open up in the chat box. What haven't we answered? What can we add to this so that we're all on the same page? So this is your chance to do that.
I have one question here. Should proposals have a colorful background, graphs, or just text?
Sarah, you want to take that?
Sure. Only if it adds to the actual proposal itself, to the content. There's definitely no requirement, and there's nothing in the scoring that would say give bonus points, for example, for that. So I would say only if it truly is applicable and relevant to making sure we understand the content.
Okay, and does all of this information apply to posters, and if so, how?
Okay, great question. So in the call for proposal packet, which is a PDF that you can download, posters and briefs are a little different, so be sure to read the actual guidelines for them. They do not have to fall within tracks. So the posters and briefs do not need to fall within one of the 7 tracks. They're kind of on their own. So we're looking for high quality sound research and innovations. So that's one of the main differences. I would just refer to that packet for any other more nuanced differences, unless there's a specific question about that. The submitting of multiple proposals is allowed across the board for ed sessions and posters and briefs. So people can submit as many sessions as they want, but they can be lead presenters at only 2 of the sessions, and that applies across the board.
Okay, and then will PAEA consider adding opportunities in the future to include proposals that require more time and/or have multiple parts?
I would say yes. I'm writing that down as something that is a suggestion. So I would say yes. Without committing, obviously for this year, but we will take that in consideration. So thanks for the idea.
This one says, a colleague has a presentation that they have previously done, which is high quality, current, relevant, etc., but doesn't easily fit into the boxes offered. What should they do?
So, yes. Yeah, go ahead, Sarah. You go first, and I have something to say about that, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm actually forming my thought for this. So, Sarah, why don't you jump in and I'll catch it behind you.
So, I guess, is there any way that person could just tell us what the topic is? Because I'm having a hard time thinking that it doesn't fit into one of those, because some of them are pretty broad. Is there any chance we could know what it is to be able to respond?
Oh, sorry. It looks like that was just a follow-up to the question about proposals that require multiple parts and stuff like that. So I think that question's answered.
Okay.
I have one that says, if my focused presentation has extensive audience engagement, should I consider making it a marker space? I'm concerned the activities will take much of the 50 minutes.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I would say yes. And I get there's no exact science to this, but if the concern is about the time constraint and you do have lots of hands-on activities, then I would absolutely consider it more of a maker space.
Great. What other questions? All right. Do you see anything else, Heather?
Nope, not right now.
Okay.
Oh, yep, hold on. Someone just came in. It says, can you tell us what specific information the online portal will request? Identify a track, purpose, objectives. So basically, yeah, what information that the online portal will request.
Sure. So this would be I'm going to go kind of for ed sessions, and keep in mind there are 3 different types of ed sessions, but essentially overview and summary. So we're looking for kind of a what's going on in the session, issue or topic you're going to address, the significance to this community, profession, or community, recommendations for others, readability, originality. That's some of the main categories. I'm just looking across quickly. For some of them, we don't call it overview. We call it, for example, focused discussions, introduction/background, purpose and educational objectives/outcomes of the innovation, educational design, evidence from research for innovation, impact/effectiveness, and readability. So readability is going to be on there pretty standard, and then others are going to just be nuanced to the specific event. And if you download that call for proposals PDF, that's all spelled out in there as well.
Yeah, so really, yeah, definitely go to that PDF, guys, and download it, because we spent time really trying to answer all those questions in there of what to do. If you don't already know this, you should know this, that PAEA does a blind review. So what that means is that your name, any identifier, is taken off the proposal when your peers review it. And I have to tell you that very few or associations are brave enough to do this, and so it's really impressive to me as somebody who spends a lot of time in associations that you guys review this way, which means you're reviewed very fairly. There's no bias to who you are, what program you come from. We try to remove all identifiers so that you're really just your actual session content and the way you're going to deliver it and why it's important and what you're really tackling and why it's so relevant is what's going to be evaluated, not who's doing it. And I think that's important for you to know that if you've never submitted before.
And Sarah, I just want to mention also to all the people on the line, you're welcome to go into the system, create the account, start typing in your information, and hit save and come back. You can edit your session up until that 11:59 on the 30th. So I encourage you to go in and experiment with the system well in advance of the 30th. And again, just save, edit up until that time, and just know to submit by that 11:59 on March 30th.
And reach out if you want some feedback. If you want to run something by somebody on staff or certainly colleagues, you can certainly reach out to me. My information is it here? Can't remember. Yeah, yay, it's there. So there's my email. And you can just email me if you want to. I'm happy to look at your session proposal or title or objectives. So we all want you to win. I mean, that's why we're doing this. So we want you to be successful, and we reach out to us so that, but please don't do that on the final hour of the 30th, because we may not be able to respond within minutes of the deadline. So, try to reach out to us in advance, and we are here to support you. So with that, in case Heather, if there's anything else, guys.
Yeah, I've got more questions.
Go.
Okay, what is the difference between a focused discussion and makerspace?
Sarah?
Sure, okay. So really these are going to be found in more of the descriptions, but generally speaking here, and the session types and descriptions, I don't want to read to you word for word here. Just one second. Focused discussions are really going to be focused on engaging the audience just through talking. So there's going to be a lecture component with those, but it's going to be brief. And just to give you a sense here, it says in the focused discussion format, presenters will provide concise information in a lecture or active learning format about a specific topic, particular educational findings or observed experiences, while also engaging session attendees. These sessions are the best option for conducting interactive problem-solving conversations, which may include brainstorming, exchanging ideas on a specific issue or challenge, and/or creating educational material. That's there. And then makerspaces, we have here, they provide an experiential or hands-on session that focuses on educational techniques, approaches, skills, creativity, and creation. The presenter's role is more facilitative than instructional, and it serves as a guide. And we have a link about makerspaces in our call for proposals packet as well.
Anything else?
Just a note to when you're putting in your session proposal and everything, you actually can't save an incomplete session abstract and come back to it later. So if you're going in early and making that account and putting in your information, make sure that you copy and paste your information so you don't lose it. Just an FYI. I have more questions. If you end up having more than 2 proposals that are selected, who determines which submission or submissions are going to be presented?
So this is a question for our, probably for our Education and Programming Steering Committee. I can say it won't be a staff person, so that would be more at the volunteer level. And obviously we have to review those case-by-case basis, but for right now, that's what I would say. We would have some of our volunteer leaders in that decision.
Okay, and does PAEA provide feedback to all of the presenters for submissions that are not accepted for the Education Forum?
This year we will. Last year I think that practice was stopped, but we will do that this year.
Okay, is there a submission category that you anticipate will be more competitive than others?
No, I'm not sure. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I can't think that. I don't think that would be. I think that's accurate.
I have a question here. Can you verbalize or paraphrase the biggest differences between integration teaching the 21st century learner and transforming the student experience?
Say it one more time, Heather.
Can you verbalize or paraphrase the biggest differences between integration teaching the 21st century learner and transforming the student experience?
Oh, wow. That's a deep question.
I'll take.
Yeah, you go first. Okay, I want to hear what you're going to say.
Sure. So teaching the 21st century learner, I think, really focuses on a lot of the instructional approaches and methodologies. In the description, you'll see things like the active learning, tackling wicked problems, etc. The transforming the experience, I think, takes it up a level in terms of policies and practices and environment. So it's really more about culture and about thinking of that experience, not just in terms of curriculum or the actual teaching part of things, but kind of more broadly.
Sorry, I'm scrolling through here.
Okay.
If
Great.
we reach out for feedback before submitting, will the submission still be blinded to reviewers? Meaning, are those giving preliminary feedback involved in the review process?
Yeah, I want to be clear about one thing about that kind of offer. This is Sarah Fletcher. So if you reach out to staff, we actually, absolutely, everything will be blinded before it goes to the review process. I would say, though, to be clear, the distinction here should be if you're needing help in terms of more technical, while I know, Sarah, you mentioned we'd be happy to assist, we won't get into assisting with the actual writing of the content. We definitely, if we do assist, obviously, it's just one of those things we will do as people need. But to be clear, that's not feedback we're going to give to the reviewers. We're not going to have a list of people who we've helped or something like that. And there's no way it would increase your chances. We have to be fair across the board. So I just want to make a distinction about if you reach out for some help or some feedback, it's not going to be a judgment of will this make it or not, or in any way try to advantage people.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. And it's more around, this is my idea, this is my session title. Do you like this? This is the description, and there's no writing involved, but just reviewing it and maybe giving you a couple comments. That's what I was thinking with that. Yeah, I always love when I tell people I'll help you with your resume, and the next thing I know they say, "Will you write it?" That's not the kind of help we're talking about. So thanks, Sarah, for clarifying that.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are great
all
questions.
the questions.
Is there anything else, Heather?
Nothing right now, nope.
All right. Well, we're almost at the top of the hour. And again, Sarah, do you want to reiterate where they can find everything?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. So thank you again, everybody, for your time today and for joining us. I hope you found this helpful. Please go to the forum, to the Call for Proposal site. There you need to just download the packet. I really encourage you to do that because it has every bit of the information that's been asked today, session descriptions, what you need for all of these sessions. So be sure to check that out and just get those submissions in by 11:59 on the 30th of March. And we look forward to having lots of submissions and lots of great content for the forum.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you.
In Anaheim.
And just, I don't know if anyone mentioned the website, but for everyone to access this, make sure you go to forum.paeaonline.org, just to give everyone the link for quick access.
Thank you, Heather. I meant to say that. Thank you.
No problem.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.